via Ethereum token. That's basically what we are. Yeah, thank God for Ethereum tokens. Stuff's really cool. Is OptiToken a fund? Not necessarily. Essentially, we like to call what would be our fund our portfolio. Everything in our portfolio is from our ICO. We held a small one in mid-2018. So we don't have any new funds coming in as of now. It's not something where you can potentially sign up to invest in, except for buying on the token, you can get exposure. So, yes, okay. Now, okay, so we have fund and we have a token. What do we do? So our main thing, and the reason why we started is because of our algorithmic trading ideas and a small group of people, and basically all the success we were finding, and using different technical analysis tools to create algorithms and stuff like that. Our flagship algorithm is OptiX. And OptiX. OptiX is essentially a proprietary trading program. Our strategy, more or less, is always going to be scalping. And we're scalping, we're looking for kind of directional trading in the sense of we're looking for higher highs patterns, lower lows patterns, lower highs, higher lows. And we're trying to collate these patterns to the best of our ability with scalping. Okay, so how do we? Yeah, okay. So price drops percent buy, gains percent sell. Well, how do you pick the ranges? So let me move on a touch. In times of high volatility, we find these levels, which is essentially just the average price variances, which is sample months. I put 2 down, I could put down several. They tend to be around this price range, 4 to 6%. When volatility is higher, we would probably set the settings to do something like a drop of maybe 2 to 3% would be the first trigger, and the exit trigger would be a rise of maybe 5 to 6%. In times of, and then it would rinse and repeat essentially. So we're trying to create this higher highs pattern there. In times of lower volatility, we would probably use something like the standard deviation, what it currently looks like, past 60 days, 30 days, 90 days. So we would probably set it around a drop of 1 or 2% would trigger a buy, the raise of 3% would trigger a sell. It's really not that interesting. It's really simple, but that's cool. It's actually why we like it. For trading bots and stuff, automations, so many are just based around, okay, well, hey, we're gonna, trade via the, MACD or trade via moving averages and stuff, and they can be quite, like moving averages one, simple stuff like that can be quite effective. But at the end of the day, they're all pretty simple. And the ones that tend to get too tricky, a lot of times kind of tend to not have longevity in them. But the most exciting part, kind of why we came to the trading show, was what we're incorporating into the next version. Because why? The stuff with the percents is quite simple and it's actually really effective, surprisingly. It does require some human overlook, and it's not optimal for times when a human can't look at it. So we started doing, I wouldn't say we started. I mean, I personally, I know a lot of our other analysts have done a lot of stuff with volume. Volume's important to us. I mean, it's a tool I think that's far undertalked about, it's far underutilized, and it's one of the, it's one of the best telltale signs of trends. So essentially, and I had never really heard anything about implied volume or implying it. I mean, you can hear about implied volatility, but at the end of the day, they're two separate things. A lot of things are implied, but no one's really implying volume. And so what we started doing was implying volume, and then using that in combination with how we're setting our orders, what type of orders we're setting, what percent variables we're using for our buy and sell target levels, and we've had really good results. Essentially, what we're doing is we're taking samples of current volume, starting using the UTC time frame, and as we move through the day, we're taking samples and we're building a bigger picture of what the next 24 hours is going to look like, the next week, whichever time frame you may find. We have our time frame. Someone else might find some other time frames valuable, and we're essentially comparing the implied total to maybe like the past 20 days, the past 14 days, or units, I should say, really, or 50, whatever. Once again, this is something one can play with and find, variables they like, they find work for them, and what we're finding is that it's like, okay, if it's 2 in the morning UTC time, and my automation is telling me that the implied close of the day total, let's say that volume starts to go a little crazy, is going to be higher than it was 20 days, higher than average, then I can change the type of order that I may have set. So I can change, and depending on if it's positive or negative. If right now I'm mostly cash and I'm looking to buy, I can change the set buy order to a stop loss. Or I'm sorry, to a trailing stop, my apologies. Or I can change the amount I'm looking to target. I can say, if I'm looking to buy 3% drop in, say, Ethereum, I can change that to 5%, 6%. That's variable. And then vice versa when we're exiting positions as well. This is, as is now, this is OptiX. This is our trading algorithm. It's really simple, like I said earlier. And this is version 1. So when version 2 is out, we're going to offer public licensing as well. And the volume tool, which I think is really, honestly, I haven't seen I play a lot of automations. I play with Dunbot, Profit Trailer. I played with all these, and none of them I can find are as good as just proprietary stuff that people are like, these big banks all stuff, and the money managers here I'm sure they have proprietary algorithms. This one is better than anything on the public market. When we include the volume element. So as we have now, we have the basket. Another feature of version 2 will be separate baskets. So if I'm trading on Bitfinex, I can have one basket that's just trading Bitcoin and one basket that's trading altcoins, perhaps. The standard deviations tend to be quite different for Bitcoin and altcoins. One problem here, if you're trying to get exposure to, not just Bitcoin or not just altcoins, is that the automation, altcoins being more volatile, it's always going to buy them first. Like Ethereum is probably going to drop 3% and hit that trigger before Bitcoin does. This is just testing stuff. One of the pictures I have is really early on testing. You can see the testing phase where it's just like pennies, nickels, dollars. It's quite profitable as is. So this is version 1, and when version 2 is available for showing pictures and examples of. And we're really excited for what we're going to be showing. We expect it to be as much as 50% better as far as results. So, and one more cool thing that I want to talk about as well with it is this stuff with this volume and stuff like this. This is the stuff that this data. We can take this and we can crunch it. We can use machine learning algorithms to really dissect this stuff and use this positively. Whereas the standard now is stuff like using Twitter mentions is really big, and I just really can't still wrap my head around that. Not only would I ever want to trade based on Twitter, I would hate to be the last in when everybody's already talking about it, has their bag. I'm not trying to go jump in after that. So that's a lagging indicator. Volume's not a lagging indicator. so much. So because it's not used that much, and if I can spot a trend beforehand, then I'm going to be in for most others. Now, if somebody had some kind of an AI program where I can apply Twitter mentions, I'm very interested. I'm very, very interested. But until that comes out, I'm not interested in design indicators like that. Let's see. So yeah, that's one more feature I will mention for version 2 is having automatic percent differentials reset setting, and that'll just help with the higher highs and lower lows trading pattern. But if people have specific questions about that, they can take them. That's mostly what I have for now. If anybody has questions, I'd be happy to answer. If you don't, no problem. If no questions, then thank you very much for your time. Have fun with the rest of the show.